Hey, good evening. It is Thursday, July 27th, 7 p.m. We're starting this Ditch the Stress workshop. So I am very grateful that you're joining me tonight, and I'm going to go ahead and we are recording this live so that it will be up on either the website or YouTube. Either way, people are going to be able to access this. So if you happen to pop in after we've started, feel free to download the PDF as well as watch the video. So I'm really excited about bringing this to you. I am just going to go ahead and, I am Dr. Brooks. I am a doctor of nursing practice. I have been a nurse for 30 years, and it is my privilege to be able to come away from the bedside, come away from taking care of patients in the acute care, post-acute care setting, and really work with clients on a one-on-one basis on helping them achieve the best health that they can get to. And we always say, we want to achieve optimal health. Well, what does that mean? What that means is, what I want to do. I want to be able to, I've got 5 grandkids. I want to be around for them. I want to do what I can do for them and have, a great life with them. So I think I'm really excited about this new chapter, and I really hope that you get some good use out of this stress management workshop. So ditch the stress. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We'll hold all the questions to the end and really workshop it through. I'm going to cut the recording. That will not be recorded just for personal reasons. People wanted to keep some of their stuff off of Zoom, and I get that. So we're going to I'll stop it right at the end, and then you can pick up any questions that you might have. So let's see here. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, I am going to hide me here. So Ditch the Stress comes with a workbook, which you can download and you can watch that. So the objectives that I have for this workshop is that you will be able to watch this, go through the workbook, and you will be able to identify 3 ways that chronic stress can impact your life. Also, I would like you to be able to at least recall at least 3 stress management techniques. So we'll talk about those. And lastly, I'm really hoping that learners will be able to design a schedule that includes daily stress management techniques. So what does that look like? And I will go through that when we get to the end. And so it begins. So the natural stress response. I really think that I would do you a disservice if I didn't give you a little rundown of the physiological, what goes on with stress. And so imagine you're taking a walk, and all of a sudden this large dog comes bounding towards you. He's barking, he's loudly, he's maybe drooling at the mouth, his teeth are flashing. So how does this make you feel? If you are any shade of normal, this sight should really set off a reaction where you can feel your heart beating in your chest. You may stop in your tracks. You may turn and start running. And often it's difficult to think about what you should do. Often in a situation, we just act on instinct. And so this reaction, we call it the fight or flight. And it starts in the hypothalamus. And this is a tiny little area in the base of your brain that sends out a hormone and nerve signals to the adrenal glands. Now, what are the adrenal glands? These are these little glands that sit on top of your kidneys. So now you've got something from your brain shooting signs and signals to your kidneys, above your kidneys. When these adrenal glands get signaled, they release hormones. They release adrenaline and cortisol. Now, the adrenaline, that's what makes your heart feel like it's beating faster when you get scared, and you can feel that. It may make your blood pressure higher. And usually this is what gives us the ability to often outrun what's chasing us, or it gives us that increased strength for the moment. And I know oftentimes we hear either real stories or see on TV when people are in stressful situations and they are able to do these Herculean things like getting one person moving a car off of train tracks if it stalls or something like that. So that often the adrenaline is what really drives that energy. During this reaction, okay, we've got sugar or glucose is being released. Sugar, same thing as glucose, and it's being released in your bloodstream by the cortisol. Cortisol is saying, hey, we need more sugar. If you have not heard of cortisol, you will want to know specifically that this is known as the primary stress hormone. Now, there's a purpose of the sugar dump into your bloodstream because this is what's going to help nourish your brain. Remember, we talked about your brain acts on instinct. Well, how does it move so fast and think so quickly at that time of stress? It's being fed by this sugar, which is being dumped into the bloodstream. And it helps the cortisol helps the body use that glucose more effectively. Now, the cortisol also promotes tissue repair. And how does it do that? But it helps to work. It works to make available those substances that help with repair. So it does a couple of things that are very beneficial that you really need at that point in time. So cortisol is good in a situation. Now, cortisol is a hormone that ensures the body doesn't waste any energy or focus on areas that are not directly involved in the need for survival at this time. And it's also going to make sure that the body is not involved in any process that would be harmful to the response. Now, the body systems that are affected by the cortisol working here, conserving energy, are going to be your immune system, the digestive system, reproductive system, and any processes that are related to growth. Because the cortisol is saying, hey, wait, we've got an emergency. That stuff can wait. It's prioritizing. It is the priority hormone. This being known, it would make sense that the stress response is a communication system involving brain functions for mood, for motivation, and fear. So it's really going to cause you to, fight, flight. You're either going to fight it, you're going to run away from it. How are you going to, the fear there that's being driven. So, and it's going to help you move. Now, after the owner comes out, we're back to the dog here. After the owner comes out and calls back their dog, the perceived threat is over and the alarm system response will dissipate with the hormone levels returning to normal. As the hormones return to baseline, the heart rate, the blood pressure, they also drop back to normal. And any systems that were put on hold are going to start back up. So that's good, right? We get, it served its purpose when it needed to. The situation was eliminated and things can get back to normal. But what happens when the dog is always there? That's my question. And that's where we really need to think about this workshop. What happens if you're a nurse? You work 12-hour shift that's short-staffed. You have no help. You've got a heavy patient assignment. What works if you're a parent and your child is up every night at midnight and screams for 2 hours? And I can tell you, I've been in a couple of those situations, been in both of those situations. You are up every night. Your stressors are remaining present, whether you're, working as that nurse, you're in that parent, or for whatever other situation you're in, those stressors remain present. And so your fight or flight is perpetually engaged. You begin to have overexposure of these stress hormones, too much adrenaline, too much cortisol. And it's important to note that when this happens, there is interference with almost every process within your body. Think back. What does cortisol affect when it shuts down everything else? It shuts down your immune system, your reproductive system, the digestive system, any system related to growth. So think about that in those systems, in the interference that that could have if those hormones are continuing to fire, if those signals are firing, those hormones are continuing to go out, you're continuing. Think about what happens when you get the continued cortisol dumping that sugar into your brain, into your bloodstream, into your brain. So let's have a look at the problems that this can cause. Huge list here, right? Anxiety and depression, digestive problems. We talked about the digestive system, headaches, muscle tension and pain, cardiovascular disease, sleep problems, weight gain, memory and concentration, cardiovascular disease. Any patients or any people with heart disease, heart attack, high blood pressure, and stroke. So many people can recognize at least a few of these. When I learned that chronic stress will lead to heart attack and stroke, independent of my healthy diet, I knew that I had to take stress management more seriously. And I also knew that I needed to help others do the same. Let me repeat that first part of that sentence. When I learned that chronic stress, this is stress continuing to go on, the cycle is not being broken, the cortisol is being fired, the adrenaline is being fired. When that chronic stress continues, and it will lead to heart attack and stroke, independent of how healthy my diet is. And I pride myself on my plant-based diet, and I try to eat the best I can and low sugar, and I don't drink, and all this, really, really, really good, healthy plant-based diet. But when I read that about the chronic stress, I thought back to the last several years of my life, losing my dad, losing my mom, losing my father-in-law. Both my mom and father-in-law were in the middle of COVID, of which I had to take time off to take care of my mom because she was terminally ill, of which I was working for 2 years as a COVID nurse on the front lines of COVID, taking care of patients who were just sick and dying without their loved ones at their side. And I think about that chronic stress. And so think about the chronic stresses you've had in your life, and where is that cycle being broken? Where do you break that chain of stress? So I really hope that you can glean something from this. Even if you glean the importance of needing to do something, that's a huge first step. So managing chronic stress. In the PDF download for the Ditch the Stress workbook, there is a page where you will be able to fill out some answers to these questions. So we've covered why chronic stress is bad. Now we're going to look at several ways to manage your chronic stress. Many of these you've probably heard before, but I hope to encourage you by looking at the cause and the effect of stress. It will help set an urgency to actually make the commitment to change. So take a few minutes now and fill out the 3 boxes to the right. Write what you currently do to manage stress. Do you get any results from this? And what makes your stress better? This is all using a little bit of self-awareness. How can we change if we don't know where we are? How do we get to point B if we don't know what point A, where point A is? So I think that's the big thing, is recognizing, what am I doing right now? Does it work? And what makes my stress better? Is there anything that I do that makes it better? So if you want to stop and look at that, that's fine. Go ahead and do that. We're going to go on. So there's several approaches for stress management interventions, and we're going to talk mainly about the first 2. Relaxation techniques, these work to stop the chemical response to stress, that chemical response, that cortisol, that adrenaline. So these are things like muscle relaxation, breathing exercises, yoga, tai chi, massage, acupuncture, biofield therapies, which are alternative healing practices like Reiki and therapeutic touch. Then there's mindfulness. Here we look at what the stressors are, and we take an emotionally intelligent approach. Using mindfulness techniques, we can increase our awareness of what these stressors are and how we react. And we can work to achieve a non-judgmental approach, reducing the power that these stressors have in invoking a response from us. So that's the importance of that. Now, cognitive behavioral therapy, I'm not going to touch on. I'm just going to, I am going to touch on it. I'm not going to talk about this as an approach to use. Now, this helps the way, changes the way that we think about stressors, and it helps us build up coping mechanisms. It also works to improve communication and encourage building social support. The thing with cognitive behavioral therapy, where you will most likely run into this, and this is an area that I've used it, I've actually used CBT myself through using resources such as employee assistance. I was having an issue with work, with stressors from work, really wanted to be healthy in how I responded, and wanted to get some coping mechanisms to respond to something that I was dealing with at work. And so I went and I sought out a psychologist who was able to sit down and talk about some things, and just some terms like locus of control and just different mechanisms that I can use when I'm going through dealing with situations. And so I think that that is worth mentioning, because EAPs are very great, are a great modality for you to be able to learn how to respond and get an outside opinion, because sometimes we might be, talking about things and, they're like, well, yeah, really, you've got to, I can see your point. And so somebody actually, was able to sympathize with me and say, yeah, that is not a really great situation, and here's what we can do about it. So I think that that is important to mention, and bears worth mentioning there. So let's start with relaxation techniques. The first relaxation technique I want to talk about is breath work. This is basically some of these, you've probably seen all of these at one time or another. What I'm trying to do is encapsulate this all into, give you some interventions in a row to do, and then hopefully you'll be able to take them and pattern them into a week program for you. So breath work. This is where you're taking a deep breath in and out. And basically, you want to be in a position where you can rest your hands on your belly, and your concentration is going to focus on you want to do an abdominal breath. So you don't want your chest to rise up and down with this. You want to take a big ho, ho, ho Santa breath with the belly going out. You want to raise your hands off your belly. You want to raise them up a little bit or out. And then as you breathe back in, you want them to sink back in. So you kind of breathe in, 2, 3, 4, and then you would breathe out, 2, 3, 4. And you're going to realize that as you're doing that, your focus is going to be on moving those hands. And so your focus isn't going to be on your stressor, or who said what, or who didn't do what, or what report wasn't done on time, or what the kids were doing. This is going to focus on you at this moment. So try and do this in a place where you're not distracted for a couple minutes. And I think bathrooms work wonderful. I've used them as a nurse. In the hospital, I've used bedroom many a time. So find your place, your closet that you can go to and do some of these techniques. So that is the breath work. Body scanning. So body scanning, this can be used with breath work and focus on areas of your body, releasing tension as you breathe out. So something like this, you can kind of sit back in your chair, and I'm sitting back in my chair now. And so I'm going to focus on my feet. So I'm focusing on my feet. And as I let them kind of rest on the floor, I'm just letting them rest on the floor, and I'm not putting a whole lot of pressure on them, but I'm just letting them rest there. And I'm trying not to hold them in a position. I'm just relaxing them and letting them rest. And I'm thinking about, do I feel any tension in my toes, my big toe, my little toes? Do I feel any tension in there, in my joints, in my foot, in my ankle joints, in all those joints? How about up towards, as it comes up into my Achilles? Do I feel any tension there? Now I can go one further after I go through kind of a section of a body part. I can breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4, and I can breathe out 2, 3, 4. And as I do that, I want to breathe into the tension if I feel any tension in my foot at all. And then as I breathe out, I want to let it go. Just let it go. Be like Elsa and Frozen and let it go. So those are the things you can work your way up. You can do the lower calves, you can do the knees and the thighs, and then the pelvic and the hip region and your torso. And a lot of times when you hit, if you've been working during the day sitting, specifically, you may have a lot of upper body, shoulder, neck tension. This is a really good exercise for you to scan, just to kind of, sit back in the chair and rest your elbows. And as you sit there, kind of, really focus in. Okay, I'm thinking about my right shoulder now, and I'm like feeling it. Do I feel any tension? I've been doing these relaxation exercises all day, so I'm pretty relaxed right now. But normally, if I'm sitting here and I've been writing or whatever, I can feel tension in my joints. And so I would do some deep breathing in 1, 2, 3, 4, and out 2, 3, 4. And I will be able to kind of release that tension as I go through that. So that's a great exercise to do all the way up to the top of your head. If you're going to do the body scan, don't just stop at the shoulders. Do the neck, do your smiley frown muscles in your face, do your forehead, because I can't tell you the times that I've caught myself in a mirror or in a glass reflection and my frown. I imagine people don't want to approach me because sometimes I think I look like I'm just ready to bite their head off, but I'm really not. I'm probably just deep in thought, but I've got those lines on my forehead. So just really try to go even to the tippy tips of your scalp and just really identify any areas of tension and breathe in, let them go, and just really try and release that tension. Guided imagery. So you can use a number of apps for this, or Spotify also has sessions as well. I actually have, over the last week, getting ready for this, I've tried a couple of the guided imagery ones. Another thing is to put on crickets. If you just want to put on a sound that brings you peace. How's that? When I was younger in life, it was loons, the call of the loon. I grew up in upstate New York with Adirondacks. And so the call of the loons was just so haunting to me, but it was yet so peaceful and relaxing. And so I remember the days of camping out and listening to loons on the lake. And so just that sound, and I would find soundtracks with that. And I would just sit and listen to it. And I would think, okay, I'm walking, from my campsite, I'm walking down towards the lake, and I'm standing at the lake, and I see the lake is clear, crystal clear. There's just no ripples in it whatsoever. It just looks like a sheet of dark glass. And then I see, I'll talk to myself about that. So, but the guided imagery, there are definite soundtracks you can do. You can go on a forest walk. You can have a guided imagery at the ocean side. And these are just a few of the ones that I saw when I was looking them up. So really a great thing to do. And just to kind of experience a different type of relaxation experience for you. Yoga. Some people like yoga, some people don't. This involves a series of poses. So there's many different types of yoga. I probably recommend more of a restorative of yoga for you at this point when you're trying to do some relaxation techniques. Flow yoga, hot yoga, those are more aerobic and more energetic workout. So those are going to be a little bit more working up a little bit of energy. But yoga can actually be very relaxing as well. The restorative yoga can focus on different stretches and different poses that will work through and allow you to release some tension as you're holding those poses. And you're breathing breath work with that as well. Tai Chi. Tai Chi is a series of many moves. It can take a long time to learn. I've seen it on commercials where sometimes they have these commercials and you'll see a lot of senior citizens doing the Tai Chi for their health. And that's great. But like I said, it can take you a long time to learn this, but it is something that you can take up a class, learn a little bit of it, and do some of that. And there's just great results. And there's a lot of research to say that is very beneficial as a stress management intervention. Now, unlike Tai Chi, there is also Qi Gong. Qi Gong is this is not, well, Tai Chi is many moves, but Qi Gong is going to be one move that's repeated over and over. So a lot easier to learn because it's one move, you repeat it over and over. Okay, so that's another relaxation technique. And then prayer and or meditation, however you wish to approach that. Personally, for me, I believe in quiet time in the morning. For me personally, that is, included with my Bible and with prayer. And so that is my quiet time in the morning. I get my walk in, I get out and do my walk, then I grab my breakfast and I do my quiet time. And that's pretty much the way that I start my day. And I feel like when I start my day with that, a good walk and some quiet time, allowing myself to settle for the day before I even think about what is on my schedule that day, it really sets my tone for the day. And I think it goes back to years and years ago where my mother used to have this saying, and I don't know if it was a picture or a quilt, but I just remember that there's just sometimes words just resonate with you for a lifetime. And it was a life or a day hemmed in prayer is likely to unravel. And so that I've just carried that with me for years and years. So I just really feel that having that solitude, that peacefulness in the morning, whatever you want to do, is really a great way to start the day and kind of clear out, because every day is a fresh start and clears out all the nastiness in the webs of yesterday. And today's a new day. So start that well with getting your mindset right. Get your mindset ready for the day. So I do want a disclaimer, just to be safe with the yoga, with the Tai Chi, whatever. If you're doing anything and you're pregnant, you have any chronic medical condition that can have some restrictions, please be sure to check with your healthcare provider before you start a new physical practice. I really, I state that not out of my own liability, but also for your protection as well, because a lot of times when you change things, and I'm actually more vigilant about this when people change their diet, because if you're taking medications and you change your diet, that can cause huge changes in your blood sugar, your blood pressure, things like that when you start eating healthy. So always be in contact with your physician if you are currently under the care of a physician. So swimming and floating. So these are more mindfulness techniques. These are actually, those were relaxation techniques. We're going into the mindfulness techniques. And so swimming or floating in water that uses the entire body. And it does this without stressing the joints. And by doing this, you can release stress, you can increase mobility, and you can bring more oxygen to muscles. And we want to bring oxygen and blood flow to muscles because blood is just the life of the body. It brings nutrients, it brings oxygen, it brings water. So it brings all the hydrates, the cells. So it's very important to do things that will bring more oxygen to the muscles, and swimming or floating will do this. It can be rhythmic. You can go underwater and you can improve your mindfulness because it blocks out distraction. And it was really neat. I did experience that last year when I incorporated some swimming into my training program. I was training for a long distance run. And so in the swimming, I noticed that when my head was underwater, it was very, very quiet and calm. So just something, especially this time of year, this is summer right now in July. So if you have access to a pool, try this for a little bit at a time. Core walking or meditation walking. So core walking removes that forward momentum. This is not I'm going to go for a walk and try and get it done 15-minute miles. This is you cannot plan to walk a great distance. You can't plan to walk a great deal of time because it's really actually pretty strenuous. I just tried to do this week. Core walking takes away that forward momentum, and I'm a big forward momentum person. So when I start walking or I start running, it's very hard for me to stop. I just want to keep going. It's like this centrifugal force of your legs just keeps you moving forward. So it slows down the movement. And when you do this, you are using your stabilizing muscles in order to stay upright. And I noticed that when I did this, I was losing my balance. If I took away that momentum moving forward and I just tried to go from one foot and then place the next foot in front without having any momentum to it, it was very shocking to me that I was challenged in my balance. It was just an amazing feeling. So what it does is it tightens the smaller muscles in the core. And this practice, this core walking, has actually helped ease body pain in the long run and has helped people improve their balance. And I can see how that would definitely work. Now, during meditative walking or core walking, you can practice keeping your breath relaxed, or you can practice putting an even amount of weight on each leg, or you can focus on not bouncing up and down when you're walking and focus on a smooth glide forward with your shoulders moving forward and back in a relaxed manner. And this fluid motion is a good sign that you are abdominal breathing. Remember, we talked about not doing that chest breathing, but we want to raise the belly and lower the belly. Suggested surfaces to do this core walking on are, you can use a flat beach, you can use a hallway, or even a few laps around a room in your home, as long as you eliminate distractions. So almost any activity can become a mindfulness exercise, such as drinking a cup of tea. Take the time to enjoy the process of making the tea, from heating the water to pouring, focusing on the steeping, the smelling of the aroma. Focus your body as it goes through all emotions. You're running the water. Think about running the water. Now, this is a break. This is your mindfulness activity. So this isn't just, I'm doing this mindlessly. I am actually taking the teapot, I'm filling it up with water. And as you're doing that, you're just really thinking about it. You're watching the water go in the teapot. And then you're like, okay, I'm putting it on the stove. You watch the light, whether it's electric or gas. Mine's gas, so I'm watching the gas light and I'm watching it, the flames heat the bottom of the teapot. I'm hearing with my ears, I'm hearing the internal water starting to bubble, and I might see the steam start to come out a little bit through the little hole in the cap to the teapot. So you're constantly paying attention to that and focusing on it. All the actions your arms go through, your legs, holding up your body as you're standing near the stove. Then you go to, how does a tea feel as it touches your lips? What's the temperature? Is it bitter? How does it taste? Is it sweet? Slow down the process and become more present with every movement and purpose. Hiking in nature. This is another great mindfulness activity, and I absolutely, probably my favorite numero uno mindfulness activity. This is where you can connect with sounds of birds, smells of the earth, touch of the wind, and brush as you pass through. You can admire any pops of color. I've definitely caught several turtles on the trail that other people have walked by, and I'm like, oh, wait, look at this turtle. And it'd be one of the little, I think the eastern turtles with the little red and yellow. They have red around the shell, and I don't know if it's a painted turtle or an eastern turtle, but we've got lots of them around here. But stopping to look at that, and just blossoms and through the summer, in the spring and the summer, as things blossom. In the fall, looking at the colors of the leaves, just really noting those. When the acorns fell last year, we all said it was a bumper crop, as we we're hiking up and around a mountain, and there literally we thought we needed skis just to ski on the acorns, and just looking at each one of them and just admiring them, unplugging from technology. Now, I'm one who likes to take my phone and I love to take pictures. So I am taking pictures, but I try not to do anything else with it when I do that. And sometimes I don't take pictures. There's a lot of times that I will do this, that I'm just like, you know what, today's just a in the moment kind of hike. And maybe it's just one of those more stressful hikes that I just need to be in the moment and not taking a picture. Gazing meditation. So gazing meditation, this is pretty easy, and it's something kind of neat to do, and something you probably already do, but don't realize it. Have you ever sat at a campfire with a group of friends and it's been quiet, no one says anything, and you're just staring at the fire and you're staring at the flames? Well, that's basically what gazing meditation is. You can focus on a candle flame or a campfire, or focus on a waterfall, or you're just focusing on something that it just really is amazing to watch. And it just kind of fills that need for taking your mind off of the stress that you've been dealing with. So it's just something, even if you are practicing this, and we'll talk about setting up a schedule to do this, you can actually take a recording of something that you really enjoy and maybe study that at one of your times of, relaxation. If you're taking a lunch break and you want to try and fit this in your lunch break, eat your lunch and then just sit there and do some gazing meditation, or, do some deep breathing, but we'll talk about that. Yoga Nidra. This was new to me. I had to actually look into this a little bit. And this is a guided relaxation yoga that focuses on mindfulness and being present and aware. And it helps you feel relaxed without feeling like you need a nap. And that's basically how I describe this. It relaxes the body while keeping the mind awake. And so that is something that you can actually find some examples of that on YouTube and follow along with that. Stretching. You can stretch in a way that allows your body to take in more oxygen. So rather than restricting your breathing, for example, you can deep breathe in and raise your arms like I'm doing right now, and then stretch from within, trying to create more space. You're trying to stretch up to the ceiling and make your lungs bigger and your chest bigger and your stomach bigger, so that your abdomen bigger, so that you can take in a bigger breath. And then you can let that out slowly as you drop your arms. Then you can stretch other ways as well, such as the neck. So you can drop your ear toward your shoulder. And as you drop your ear toward your shoulder, you want to make sure you're sitting straight up, dropping your ear to your shoulder. And you can take in a deep breath. And as you take in a deep breath, visualize it flowing to any tight areas in your neck. And especially if you've been working on a computer all day, or something like that, seated looking at that, or if you've been on your phone all day, that's another thing. But you can breathe into that area. When you're breathing in, 2, 3, 4, imagine that breath going to that tight area. Because remember what we talked about circulation. If you're bringing in your breath, you're bringing in circulation and oxygen, and blood flow carries oxygen. It carries the nutrients, and it carries the fluid that helps to lubricate our joints. So breathing that into that spot, and then when you breathe out, you can imagine that tension going away from you as you breathe out. So each breath you can focus on a new tightness, and you can add counts to your breath here, such as in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. And by focusing on the breath and making them bigger and deeper, your breathing will signal the part of the nervous system that slows down messaging. And it also slows down that excitement, that rush of the adrenaline, the cortisol. And so that part of this nervous system is your parasympathetic nervous system. Now, the adrenaline and cortisol is part of the sympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic speeds up, parasympathetic slows down. So By doing that breathing, we are slowing down, and we're creating that message to the parasympathetic nervous system that tells our bodies to relax. And as you find yourself getting distracted, continue pulling yourself back to your relaxation technique. And this is not anything to beat yourself up. If you continually find yourself, there's just going to be days where you keep getting pulled back. You're like, whether you hear things going on, you're trying to concentrate and you just can't get a totally quiet, free of distraction place to do these exercises, things are going to happen. The whole thing is that it's completely natural when your mind drifts, because we have a poor attention period of attention span. So choose one of these that you would like to try, and be sure that it's something that you can find some quiet space to try. I had Googled a video from YouTube, and I actually tried the yoga nidra for 10 minutes, sitting back in my chair at my desk in the office. And I felt that it really helped me take a break from writing this week and return back fresher and more focused. And it was a couple of days that I really felt like I was more fatigued and more tired than usual. And I felt like this really opened up my mind and allowed me to come back more focused on my writing, and that I was able to do what I needed to do without falling asleep. So I thought that that was very helpful. So I would encourage you at least to look that up. It was like a 10 or 11 minute practice, and it was just basically body scanning and breathing. So it was, just focusing on joints and, really going through each finger, each toe. So I just encourage you to do that. So let's look at goals. Now, we've talked about the relaxation and mindfulness techniques. So goals, achieving our goals is dependent on whether we take action. Use the table below to understand the why of your goals. So what I want to do is kind of help you. How do you develop a goal? So where do you start? So what is your goal going to be? And really what you want to do is you want your goal to be something similar to, and here's an example. This is not what you have to do, but this is an example. I want to do an exercise 1 time a day, 5 days a week. And that's my goal. Okay. And so that is what I want to do. Now, what is this goal going to give you? This goal is going to give you a time during the day to stop and do an exercise, right? And then we think about it again. Let's look at the next level. And what will this give you? Well, a time during the day to stop and do an exercise is going to give me practice at these exercises. And I'm going to end up building a repertoire of exercises that I can choose from, and know that some may work better than others, right? From doing this. Now, and what will this give you? Well, I know that the next time I'm stressed, I'm going to be able to stop and use my activity, right? And so what will this give you? Well, when I stop and do that activity, I'm stopping and breaking that stress cycle, that cortisol, that adrenaline that is driving your system to go into this fight or flight response. You're going to recognize that right away, and you're going to go, oh, let me get into my relaxation technique. Or maybe you had to handle that situation, but you're still wrapped up after you handle something. Your heart rate's still up, and you might be spouting about something, and we've got to tell someone else about it. And then that revs us up a little bit more. But what we need to do is we need to put the lid on it, and we need to take some time. Okay, this is okay. If you're in work, this is great. Bathroom break, stop the cycle. Break that stress cycle, 10, 20-minute exercise that you want to do. Decrease your cortisol, decrease your adrenaline, lower your heart rate and your blood pressure. So then we get to, why is this goal important? This goal is important because overall, you are taking that place of going from chronic stress to breaking that cycle, and thereby you decrease the risks of those chronic stresses. You decrease the risk of cardiovascular disease, of anxiety and depression, of weight gain, all those things that we talked about in the beginning. And so that is what I'm hoping that you glean from this. It's not just take a couple of deep breaths and move on. This is knowing the cycle of chronic stress, knowing the damage that it causes, knowing that we need to do something about it so that it doesn't impact our health further on down the road. So also in your PDF download, you'll find this interventions for stress management. So this one you can also, just like the previous sheet, you can print this off and use this. You have free permission to use this, copy it, whatever. And you can put in your interventions. So let's say Monday, I'm going to try some, Monday, I'm going to do a yoga class. And Tuesday, I am going to do core walking. And Wednesday, I'm going to go for a swim. So you put those in. What are your interventions that I'm going to do? Because I said my goal was, so this is my goal is, so what is your goal? Put it in here. You want to do 5 days a week? 5 days a week, I would suggest Monday through Friday, because Monday through Friday are usually going to be your higher stress days, unless you another day. I would put them in your 5 top stress days if you're doing 5 days a week. If you're doing 3 days a week or 2 days a week, put those on your high stress days, because even if you know that it's so stressful, you can't think of one more thing you're going to do that day, that's the day that you need it the most. So I would just really encourage you to do the best for your body and try and do those on the days that you know that you're going to be stressed the most. And then you can write down your feelings. How did this go for me? And check it off when you're done if you're a task-oriented person like me. And so we get to the end, and I want to do questions and answers, but what I want to do is I want to just check our objectives before I pop off here. So I want to identify, you want to check your objectives, and our objectives were to identify 3 ways that chronic stress impacts your life. So can you think the 3 ways that chronic stress impacts your life, and think about those? And if you need to, because I really want you to get out of this what I wanted you to get out of this, if you can't think of those questions, go back and fill them in and write them right next to there. Chronic stress can do this, this, and this, and write 3 things down. So what are the 3 stress management techniques? Not the 3, but what are 3? Name 3 of them. Okay. So if you want to name 3 of them, name 3 of them. Put down, if you had a goal to do X amount, put those down right there, because those are going to be your stress management techniques that you're going to do. And then design a plan to incorporate one of these techniques into your schedule. So print off your goals and print off your interventions. Please print them off and use them, and just continue to use them over and over, and really try and break that cycle of chronic stress so it does not impact your overall health later on down the road. Thank you so much. And I can't wait to meet up with you again in another education program. I am excited to be doing this and hope that I can bring you another good one real soon. So hope you all have a good night.